I'm Rainbow Sparkle and I'm reading The Enchanted Wood by Enid Blyton, and this is chapter 6, Moonface and the Slippery Slip. The children clung to the top branches of the faraway tree whilst the rabbit slid down a bit lower. They could still hear the happy music of Roundabout Land as it swung around overhead. "We'd better get home," said Joe in a rather quiet voice. "It's been a bit too exciting." "Oh, come on then," said Bessie, beginning to climb down. "It will be easier to get down than it was to climb up." But Fanny was tired. She began to cry as she clung onto her branch. She was the youngest and not as strong as Joe and Bessie. "I shall fall," she cried. "I know I shall fall." Joe and Bessie looked at one another in alarm. This would never do. There was such a long way to fall. "Fanny dear, you simply must try," said Joe gently. "We've got to get home safely." But she clung onto her branch and wept great tears. The two rabbits looked at her most upset. One put his paw into her hand. "I'll help you," he said. But she wouldn't be helped. She was tired and afraid of everything. She wept so loud that the two birds nearly fell off in fright. Just as the others were really in despair, a small door flew open in the trunk of the tree not far below, and a round, moon-like face looked out. "Hey there, what's the matter?" shouted the moon-faced person. "A fellow can't get any sleep at all with that awful noise going on." She stopped crying and looked at Moonface in surprise. "I'm crying because I'm frightened of climbing down the tree," she said. "I'm sorry I woke you up." The Moonface beamed at her. "Have you got any toffee?" he said. "Toffee?" said everyone in surprise. "What do you want toffee for?" "To eat, of course," said Moonface. "I just thought if you had any toffee to give me, I'd let you slide down my slippery slip. You get down to the bottom very quickly that way, you know." "A slide all the way down the faraway tree," said Joe, believing his ears. "Good gracious, whoever would have thought of that?" "I thought of it," said Moonface, beaming again, just like the full moon. "I let people use it if they pay me with toffee." "Oh," said the three children, and looked at one another in dismay, for none of them had any toffee. Then Joe shook his head. "We've no toffee," he said. "But I've got a bar of chocolate, a bit squashy, but quite nice." "Won't do," said Moonface. "I don't like chocolate." "What about the rabbits? Haven't you got any toffee either?" The rabbits pulled out their pockets. They had a very curious collection of things in there, but no toffee. "Sorry," said Moonface, and he slammed his door shut. Oh, Fanny began to cry again. Joe climbed down to the door and banged on it. "Hey, old Moonface," he shouted, "I'll bring you some lovely homemade toffee next time I'm up in the tree, if you'll let us use your slippery slip." The door flung open again and Moonface beamed out. "Why didn't you say that before?" he said. "Come in." One by one, the rabbits and the children climbed down to the door and went in. Moonface's house in the tree was very peculiar. It was one round room, and in the middle of it was the beginning of the slippery slip that ran the whole trunk of the tree, winding around and around like a spiral staircase. Around the top of the slide was a curved bed and a curved table and 2 curved chairs made to fit the roundness of the tree trunk. The children were astonished and wished that they had time to stay for a while, but Moonface pushed them towards the slide. "You want a cushion each?" he said. "Hey, you rabbit, take the top one and go first." One of the rabbits took an orange cushion and set it at the top of the slide. He sat down on it, looking a little nervous. "Go on, hurry up," said Moonface. "You don't want to stay all night, do you?" He gave the rabbit a hard push, and the rabbit slid down the slippery slip at a tremendous pace, his whiskers and his ears blown backwards. Joe thought it looked a lovely thing to do, so he went next. He took a blue cushion, sat on it at the top of the slide and pushed off. Down he went on his cushion, his hair streaming backwards. Round and around and around went on the slippery slip inside the enormous trunk of the old tree. It was quite dark and silent and lasted a very long time, for the faraway tree was tremendously tall. Joe enjoyed every second. When he came to the bottom, his feet touched a sort of trapdoor in the trunk at the foot of the tree, and the door flew open. Joe shot out and landed on a big tuft of green moss, which was grown there to make a soft landing space. He sat there out of breath. Then he got up quickly, for he didn't want Bessie or Fanny landing on top of him. Bessie went next. She flew down on a fat pink cushion, gasping for breath, for she went so fast. Then Fanny went on the green cushion, and then the other rabbit. One by one they shot out of the strange little trapdoor, which closed itself tightly as soon as the slider had gone through. They all sat on the ground, getting their breath and laughing, for it really was so funny to shoot down inside the tree on a cushion. Whoever would have thought of such a thing? The rabbit stood up first. "We'd better be going," they said. "So pleased to have met you." They disappeared down the nearest burrow and the children waved goodbye. Then Joe stood up. "Come on," he said. "We really must get home. Goodness knows what the time is." "Oh, what a lovely way of getting down the faraway tree that was," said Bessie, jumping to her feet. "It was so quick." "I loved it," said Fanny. "I'd like to climb the tree every single day so that I can slide down that glorious slippery slip. I say, what do we do with the cushions?" At that moment, a red squirrel dressed in an old jersey came out of the hole in the trunk. "Cushions, please," he said. The children gathered them up and handed them to the squirrel one by one. They were getting quite used to hearing animals talk to them now. "Are you going to carry all these cushions up the tree to Moonface?" said Fanny in wonder. The squirrel laughed. "Of course not," he said. "Moonface lets down a rope for them. Look, here it comes." A rope came slipping down between the branches. The squirrel caught the end of it and tied the handle of cushions firmly onto the rope. He gave 3 tugs, and the rope swung upwards again, taking the cushions with it. "Good idea," said Joe. And then they all turned round to go home. They didn't talk much on the way through the Enchanted Wood, for they were all tired and very busy thinking of the strange and exciting things that had happened that day. They came to the ditch and walked across. They went down the lane and through their back gate. By the time they reached the cottage, they were ready to drop with tiredness. Their mother and father were not home yet. Bessie sleepily made some bread and milk. They undressed while the milk was heating, and then they ate their supper, sitting in their beds. "I'm not going up the faraway tree again," said Fanny, laying down. "Well, I am," said Joe. Don't forget, we promised old Moonface some homemade toffee. We can climb up to his house, give him the toffee, and slip down the slippery slip again. We don't need to go into any land at the top of the tree." But Bessie and Fanny were already fast asleep. And very soon Joe was too, dreaming of the strange faraway tree and the curious folk who lived in its enormous trunk.